bookcase, and one of the books that I found was a memory training book, and it was underlined and highlighted. So clearly she was trying to improve her memory.
Each night, she went home and typed up the classified information on her Toshiba laptop and then transferred it onto encrypted floppy disks. The Cubans would communicate with her through shortwave radio broadcasts. For example, every Saturday at 9, Montez tuned in to a certain frequency where a woman's voice would call out,
Atención, atención.
Followed by a string of numbers.
701-346-259.
She jotted down the numbers on water-soluble paper, then used a decryption program stored on a floppy disk, along with a cheat sheet, to turn the digits into messages from her Cuban handlers. After receiving her instructions, she'd meet her handler at a DC restaurant and pass the discs between bites of Chinese food. While secretly feeding intelligence to the Cubans, she was rising fast at the DIA, becoming the principal analyst for Nicaragua and El Salvador, two Cold War hotspots. In 1987, she visited a US-backed military base in El Salvador, where she was briefed on sensitive operations and security, details that would have been a goldmine for America's enemies. Just weeks after her visit, rebels ambushed the base, killing 42 Salvadorian soldiers and a US military advisor, 27-year-old Staff Sergeant Gregory Fronius, a Green Beret. The FBI pressed her about that trip years later, but she was never charged. During a routine background check in 1991, Montez admitted to lying about her past drug use and falsely claimed to have completed her master's degree. Instead of facing consequences, an adjudicator let it slide, thinking she had learned her lesson and this happened years ago. When she finally took her first polygraph in 1994, she passed. Investigators later came to believe she used the same muscle control trick she'd learned in Havana. By the time of her polygraph, she had become the DIA's lead analyst on Cuba, her dream job, a role that gave her direct access to the secrets Havana cared most about. Montez exposed the identity of a covert American officer en route to Cuba, allowing Cuban agents to intercept it. The Cubans let Montez know, "We were waiting here for him with open arms." Montez later admitted to exposing 4 American intelligence officers working undercover in the island nation. For nearly a decade, no one had any idea what she was really up to, until an incident in 1996. On February 24, 1996, Cuban MiG-29 jets shot down 2 unarmed civilian planes flown by the exile group Brothers for the Rescue. The group had provoked the regime by dropping anti-Castro leaflets over Havana. 3 Americans and a U.S. resident were killed. Montez was quickly summoned to the Pentagon to brief the Joint Chiefs of Staff on Cuba's military capabilities. This was supposed to be the defining moment of her career, and yet she decided to leave work early. According to a coworker, Montez should have worked until 10 p.m., but received a phone call, became visibly agitated, and left early at 8 p.m. Montez met with her Cuban handler multiple times that week. The Cubans were desperate to know if the U.S. was preparing to retaliate. A counterintelligence analyst at the DIA grew suspicious of her and tipped off Scott Carmichael, a former police officer turned DIA spy hunter, who brought Montez in for what she believed was routine questioning. When Carmichael accused her of being a spy, she didn't deny it. Carmichael described to Jim Popkin how, that entire time, she was just scared to death and just staring at me. And I mean, I felt like she was staring at my lips to catch every word. She insisted no one called her at the Pentagon and that she left early because she was tired and hungry. Her answers didn't sit right with Carmichael, but he didn't have enough proof. The case was quietly closed, and her espionage continued. In 1997, Montez is believed to have exposed a top-secret, multi-billion-dollar U.S. satellite program called Misty. Misty appeared to be a regular communication satellite to America's enemies, rather than what it actually was, a satellite designed to capture high-resolution images from space. She also tipped off the Cubans about an FBI surveillance van with a slightly raised roof concealing hidden antennas that was eavesdropping near Cuba's de facto embassy in Washington. As she impressed her bosses in Havana, she was also winning over her superiors in Washington, racking up accolades for her intelligence, expertise, and work ethic. She became known as the Queen of Cuba, but even queens can't live forever. By 1998, the cracks in Ana Montez's double life were beginning to show, ironically, because of her sister. By coincidence, Lucy was assigned to the FBI unit in Miami that helped take down a major Cuban spy ring known as the Wash Network. The amount of information the FBI seized from floppy disks and intercepted radio messages filled 1,400 pages. Montez's handler abruptly the regime could have taken. From now on, meetings would be overseas, usually in Florida. The silence. Montez had no friends, no one to confide in. 2 of her siblings worked for the FBI.
ironically, her sister had helped to contribute to with the arrest in Miami.
As Montez spiraled under pressure, a determined government employee was carefully connecting the dots. Known in codename Blue Wren as Elena Valdez, not her real name, she was an analyst at the NSA who had become convinced that a Cuban spy was operating deep inside the U.S. government. Her suspicions were based on intercepted communications and intel from the Miami arrest. Valdez had fled Castro's Cuba as a child with her family.
So this was personal for her. She was a dog with a bone, and she needed to solve this.
The NSA had a profile of the Moor. The suspect was someone who had purchased a Toshiba laptop to communicate with the Cubans, visited the U.S. military base at Guantanamo Bay in July 1996, had access to something labeled SAFE, and met with someone important with the initials WD. Valdez shared her leads with the FBI, and Special Agent Steve McCoy was assigned to the case. He investigated for 2 years, but made little progress. Valdez became frustrated because she didn't think the FBI was taking the case seriously. So she went over the FBI's head and brought the case to the DIA.
She was threatened with being fired. She was threatened with being jailed for essentially doing her job and trying to find a spy.
When Valdez mentioned to the DIA that the Cubans had repeatedly referenced the word SAFE, Chris Simmons, a veteran DIA Cuba analyst, realized SAFE wasn't a physical safe. It was the DIA's internal communications system. Simmons passed the lead to Scott Carmichael, the DIA investigator who once questioned Montez. He and his partner began digging into one clue in particular. The suspect had visited Guantanamo Bay in July 1996. A search of internal travel records pulled up about 100 names, and one of them was Ana Montez. When the DIA alerted the FBI, Agent McCoy brushed off their suspicions, saying, "I've got no reason to believe that the person I'm looking for is a female." The idea of a woman being the mole simply wasn't on their radar. But Carmichael connected one other detail in the mole's profile, the initials WD. He remembered Montez had boasted about working with William Doherty, the FBI's chief of counterintelligence. The FBI finally opened an investigation into Montez, codenamed Blue Wren. Agents began quietly tailing her, catching her using payphones to dial Cuban pagers. Around the same time, Montez considered walking away from her life as a Cuban spy. She wanted to build a life with Roger Corneredo, a Pentagon official who ran a Cuban intelligence program at U.S. Southern Command, a major military installation in Florida. But Cuba refused to let her go. Montez was devastated. "I'm a human being with needs that I couldn't deny. I thought the Cubans would understand." Her romantic relationship didn't survive. The FBI got a major break when Agent Peter Lapp obtained a subpoena for Montez's credit records. He spotted a line of credit from a CompUSA computer store in Alexandria, Virginia. He and Special Agent McCoy began pulling old paper sales records from computer stores across the D.C. area and discovered Montez had purchased a Toshiba laptop, just like the one the mole was believed to be using. On May 25, 2001, the FBI broke into her apartment when she was out of town. They found the Toshiba laptop, and when they copied the hard drive, they discovered messages between Montez and her Cuban handlers, including evidence that she had exposed the true identity of a U.S. intelligence officer undercover in Cuba. The FBI had enough to arrest her, but they wanted more proof. They wanted the floppy disks Montez used to decrypt Havana's radio broadcasts, which they couldn't find in her apartment. So they hatched a plan to get her hands on the one thing she always kept close, her purse. As detailed in codename Blue Wren, on August 16, 2001, the DIA staged a last-minute intelligence briefing just one floor from Montez's desk, close enough that she might leave her purse behind. And sure enough, she did. To get the analyst who sat next to Montez away from his desk, he was told someone had moved in the parking lot and driven us. Then, FBI agent McCoy, posing as an IT technician, entered Montez's cubicle and grabbed her purse. They didn't find the floppy disks, but they did find more damning evidence inside. Prepaid calling cards used at agents, a New York pager number linked to Cuban intelligence, and handwritten numeric codes used to send messages to Windows pagers. In the days after 9/11, the DIA feared Montez might leak sensitive military information to Cuba, so they wanted her arrested as soon as possible. Friday, September 21, 2001 seemed like any other day for Ana Montez. She got into her car and drove her usual route to work, unaware that FBI agents were tailing her. When she arrived, Montez received a call regarding a supposed time card issue involving one of her employees, and was asked to resolve it with the Inspector General's office. But the meeting was a trap. Waiting for her inside the conference room were FBI Special Agents Steve McCoy and Peter Lapp. When they handcuffed her, she barely reacted. Laugh later said, "We figured she would just kind of collapse, be a wreck. She walked out that calm. I won't say proud, but with that kind of composure." Ana Montez's family sold off assets to help pay for her legal defense, hiring Plato Caceres, one of Washington's most renowned attorneys. Caceres had represented two of the most infamous double agents, Robert Hansen, who spied from inside the FBI, and Aldrich Ames, who sold secrets while working at the CIA. I made videos of them linked in my description. Hansen and Ames were driven by greed, but Ana Montez didn't spy for money. On October 16, 2002, she stood before a judge and explained why she betrayed her country. An Italian proverb perhaps best describes the fundamental truth I believe in. All the world is one country. It is a principle that, tragically, I believe we have never applied to Cuba. Your Honor, I engaged in the activity that brought me before you because I obeyed my conscience rather than the law. I believe our government's policy towards Cuba is cruel and unfair, profoundly unneighborly, and I felt morally obligated to help the island defend itself from our efforts to impose our values and our political system on it. My way of responding to our Cuban policy may have been morally wrong. Perhaps Cuba's right to exist free of political and economic coercion did not justify giving the island classified information to help it defend itself. I can only say that I did what I thought right to counter a grave injustice. She pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit espionage and was sentenced to 25 years behind bars. But instead of the low-security facility her defense and the judge requested, Montez was sent to a high-security wing of Federal Medical Center Carlsbad in Texas, home to violent female inmates, including an al-Qaeda operative and a woman who murdered a pregnant woman and stole her baby. Montez was confined to her cell, ate alone, and was isolated from the general prison population. She described the experience as a psychological hell. While in prison, she wrote her sister Lucy a condescending letter suggesting she see a psychologist to deal with rage toward their mother. Lucy snapped back in response, in a letter later published in codename Blue Wren. "You should know you ruined Mom's life. Every morning she wakes up devastated by what you did and where you are. Every night she goes to bed thinking the same thing. I've heard her cry because of you. It's not enough that her parents and only brother all died before she was 30, or that she was married to a violent man for 16 years and raised 4 children by herself. No, you had to ruin her final years. She should be living in peace and contentment. You betrayed your family. You betrayed all your friends. There is no forgiveness for what you did. And you betrayed your nation. You helped our enemies. You are a coward. You could have stood up for your principles openly, but you hid like a coward to punish them in secret. Why did you really do what you did? Because it made you feel powerful. Yes, Ana, you wanted to feel powerful. You're no altruist. It wasn't the greater good you were concerned for. It was yourself. The CIA concluded in a psychological profile of Montez that her difficult childhood shaped her worldview and made her more susceptible to recruitment. Ana Belén Montez's childhood experiences, family relationships, and arrested psychological development contributed to her ideological and moral development and increased her vulnerability to recruitment by a foreign intelligence service. Ana Montez walked free on January 8, 2023, after serving over 21 years with credit for good behavior. She currently lives in Puerto Rico. Ana Montez fooled U.S. intelligence for nearly 2 decades, and the only way investigators finally uncovered her secret was through methodical, logical thinking. That's exactly the kind of thinking you'll build with Brilliant. Brilliant is the app I personally use to become a sharper thinker through hands-on interactive lessons in logic, data, math, programming, and AI. I like taking just 10 to 15 minutes a day to train my brain through their newly updated logic courses. Brilliant's algebra and calculus courses are also super popular. You'll start at the level you're most comfortable with and build your way up through interactive challenges that make learning actually fun. There's something for everyone, no matter your interest. You can learn how to program and start building programs on day 1 with Python. And the best part is you can try Brilliant completely free. Just visit brilliant.org/newsthink or scan the QR code on your screen. That's brilliant.org/newsthink. The link is in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual training subscription, giving you unlimited access to Brilliant and algebra. Thanks for watching. For Newsthink, I'm Cindy Paul.
The トラッカーダーツを設置。
Oh, two. Two enemies.
Apex のチャンピオンとなりました。
Next to each other.
The Mossad has executed some.
Friday, September 21.
The CIA took decades to build a spy network deep inside China. Then, in the space of just 2 years, 20 of their informants disappeared. It was one of the worst intelligence failures in history, involving secret chat websites, a potential mole, and a whole lot of incompetence. And today, I'm going to show it all to you.
The Chinese government has systematically identified, captured, and killed up to 20 informants working for the CIA.
Our covert assets are the most precious asset any CIA officer has.
We had 20 U.S.-related spies and operatives in China that are no longer to be heard from. They're either dead or in prison. China took care of business.
It's 2006, 4 years before the China incident, and a private contractor named John Reedy is working deep inside one of the CIA's most secretive branches. Reedy is in charge of locating informants and setting up communications with them. His specialty is the Middle East, specifically Iran. But one day he notices something strange. I want you to take a look at this document that Reedy filed. Now, it's top secret, so a lot of this has been redacted, but there's enough in here for us to make sense of what he was trying to plan. As our efforts increased, we started to notice anomalies in our operations and conflicting intelligence reporting that indicated that several of our operations had been compromised. The indicators ranged from to sources abruptly and without reason, ceasing all communications with us. Years before the China network collapsed, Reedy was seeing the exact same pattern. Informants abruptly ceasing communication with them, mysteriously disappearing. Their information tap was shutting off midstream. And now, I want to show you what went wrong. Look at this website. Whilst most of us can't understand what it says, it's in Persian. You would probably say from looking at it, it looks like an ordinary soccer fan website. It's not. This is the communication tool the CIA used to speak with informants in Iran. This website was hiding in plain sight on the internet for anyone to see. It's been shut down now, but I could still access it using the Wayback Machine. Now, if you look closely down here, there is a search bar. This is where it gets interesting. If we reveal the source code on the website, which you can do with 2 clicks, the label on the search box is password. So now, deep investigation, we know that this search box is not really a search box, it's actually a password box. And if you enter the correct password, second pop-up and second login is triggered. If you enter the right password there, a secret message box appears, where you, as an informant, can share your intel with the CIA and receive intel back. Believe it or not, this basic messaging website became incredibly popular within the CIA when John Reedy was working there. At first, it was only used for communicating with sources in hostile areas, like war zones, where it was too dangerous to meet in person. But as it was so convenient to use, it spread way further. Hundreds and hundreds of clones were produced and given to informants all around the world. Each site was built for a single person to limit the exposure if that informant was caught by an enemy government. Here's one designed as a passing fan website, a photography website, and one for video games. Sometime Iran finds a website exactly like this one. A double agent left there. And once they had access, they start to dig. Using Google of all things, Iran notices that these websites have specific digital fingerprints. They're little bits of code that made them similar to each other. So they plug these unique fingerprints into Google search using some advanced search technique. Boom! Just like that, they find other versions of these websites. The exact same functionality, just a different bad design on top. Seriously, I know this was 2009, but the terrible web design on this site is a crime in itself that someone should be punished. Anyway, once Iran pieces together a catalog of these ugly websites, they watch them. They watch the traffic, they watch the IPs, the locations, to see what those exist. They're red-handed working for the CIA. And that's how the spy network in Iran started to unravel, site by site, visit by visit. It's shocking how simple it all was. But John Reedy sees this vulnerability even before Iran does. And he sounds the alarm. I personally crafted several cables detailing the threat we discovered. I provided at least 25 recommendations that we had to impose immediately. But inside the agency, they didn't want to hear it. They did not want to admit the obvious because it was their funding, their platforms, their offices, and their unwillingness to change course that led to future compromises. In 2008, Reedy was notified by his government managers that they wanted to take on new responsibilities, requiring a change to his contract. He asked to be assigned to another account, but was denied. And 3 months later, he's informed they're not moving him. And when he's fired, there are still hundreds of these websites operating around the world. They're like little digital bombs waiting to explode and expose precious informants. The time moved on. 3 long years passed after Reedy was fired. And it's not until informants in China start disappearing one by one that panic sets in. The CIA is in chaos. The panic triggers the creation of a joint CIA-FBI task force, codenamed Operation Honey Badger. These guys had to find the leak and stop it. But as Operation Honey Badger starts investigating, the dodgy chat websites are not their fault. Rather, another possible explanation occurs. Unknown. Someone inside the CIA. And as the mole team starts to build profile, one name keeps coming up. Jerry Chun Shin Lee. On paper, he ticks every box. Jerry Chun Shin Lee was born in Hong Kong, raised in Hawaii, and he was an army veteran who was also fluent in Mandarin. He joined the CIA in 1994, and he handled sensitive operations covert assets. But by 2007, something changed. Lee's career had stalled, and he leaves the CIA. He quits, disgruntled, then moves back to Hong Kong. But the CIA took notice. An ex-agent who had a top-secret clearance. He had really sensitive information about Chinese spies, and now he's left, disgruntled. He's moved to Chinese-occupied territory. It's not a crime, but it is suspicious. So the CIA did something bold, deceptive, kind of brilliant. They set a trap. They create a fake job opportunity with a big salary and reach out to him. There's a catch. To get the role, he had to attend an interview at the U.S. Lee takes them. August, company flights. Jerry Lee lands, checks into a hotel, and everything seems normal. Except the FBI is on the Operation Honey Badger is waiting, watching. As soon as Lee leaves the hotel room for the day, agents move in with a court-authorized warrant. They searched everything, and they hit the jackpot. Hidden in his luggage are two small black notebooks, not too dissimilar from what I'm holding here. The first one was a 41-page date book. The second one, a 21-page address book. Both have handwritten notes, detailed handwritten notes, put in there by Lee, and both deeply damned. Inside, there were true names of CIA assets with phone numbers, operational meeting locations, and details about covert facilities. A gold mine for foreign intelligence. But that wasn't all. Agents also find a thumb drive, a USB. Forensics dig into it, and buried deep there is a deleted document, which had a breakdown of CIA officers, mission timelines, and sensitive ops. This was top secret stuff. The FBI photographs everything, and then they vanish before Lee even returns. He doesn't know it yet, but he's in trouble. But capturing the traitor wasn't the end of the story. It was just one piece of a complicated puzzle. A puzzle that John Reedy had tried to partly solve years earlier, but that no one wanted to hear. 1 year after evidence was found in Jerry Lee's hotel room, Operation Honey Badger made another shocking discovery. The CIA was still using those dodgy chat websites to communicate with informants, but they had spread to China. Suspected that Iran communicated with China, showing them how to find these websites. Once China had access to the websites, they could track Chinese informants and then hunt them down with deadly precision. The ticking time bomb had exploded, and the CIA had paid the worst price possible. Finally, 7 years after Reedy first noticed it, they scrambled to shut these websites down. There's something I didn't tell you. Not all of these 20 informants in China use these websites to communicate back with the CIA. Top-tier informants had other, more secure ways of communicating back with the CIA. So could it have been a mole that gave these people away? Well, that's where we come back to Jerry. By 2013, the US government had the pieces, the notebooks, the thumb drive, but in espionage, evidence isn't everything. They still couldn't prove Lee had given it all to China. They needed him to confess it. And Jerry Lee was no amateur. He was trained by the CIA, so he knew how to lie, how to evade, how to stay silent. Through 4 rounds of questioning, he held the line. But on the 5th, he cracked. Lee confessed to receiving task keys and direct orders from Chinese intelligence officers. He admitted that he created a classified document found on his drive. On May 1st, 2019, Jerry pleaded guilty to conspiracy to deliver national defense information to a foreign government. He knew exactly what he was doing. And on November 22nd in the same year, he was sentenced to 19 years in federal prison. In the end, Operation Honey Badger did catch the mole, and they also discovered the communications hack that led to these informants being caught. So you might say, job well done. Well, whilst Jerry Lee's name was splashed across news headlines, there really wasn't a lot of publicity about the failure in these communication systems. No one was held accountable for the dodgy implementation, leaving literal password in the source code. No one was held accountable for leaving these sites live and letting them spread to areas where they shouldn't ever have been used. And definitely no one was held accountable for ignoring the whistleblower, John Reed, and ultimately firing him or kicking him out of the agency. But accountability in this is intelligence agencies like the CIA prefer to remain in the shadows and operate in secret for fear of leaking unnecessary information to their clients. That information may be used against them. Yet secrecy comes at a price. We may never know the name of these 20 informants in China that risked their lives to bring back information to the US. And some of them actually paid the ultimate price with their life to do that. Their sacrifice remains hidden, their names unknown. Should the CIA have held people accountable for these failures? Or is secrecy just the cost of doing business? I'd love to know your thoughts, so let me know in the comments below. Speaking of accountability, Israel's spy agency Mossad was never held accountable for the shocking crime they committed in Dubai in 2010. If you're interested in that story, you should watch my video on it right now. A man steps onto the tarmac at Dubai airport carrying a passport identifying him as Michael Bodenheimer, a German-Israeli businessman. But this man is not Michael Bodenheimer. Mossad, Israel's national intelligence agency, has stolen the real Bodenheimer's identity. At passport control, no one suspects anything out of the ordinary. 14 other Mossad agents had arrived the day before using the exact same technique, with 11 more on their way, landing in the next few hours. The assassins had just a few hours to find and kill Mahmoud al-Mabou, whose nickname was the Fox, as he had evaded their capture many times before. But even foxes can be trapped.
Dubai's police chief says he's certain Mossad is responsible.
This is an insult to Britain, to Australia, to Germany and to New Zealand.
Is this another secret Mossad operation?
I have nothing to say about this event in Dubai.
In such operations, we've known that the Mossad and the Israelis don't take chances.
That's the only way to fight terrorism and to touch them in their stomach, to show them that we can come to every place where they are.
Our message, the fact that Israel has might, and the might is military and other, is known across the world. We don't have to advertise. This is a well-known brand name.
So who exactly is Mahmoud al-Mabou? And why is he on the top of Mossad's kill list? To some, he was a soldier. To others, a terrorist. But to Israel, Mahmoud al-Mabou was a problem that refused to go away. Born in Gaza, he was raised in war. He spent over 20 years in a war zone. Conflict became his way of life. And this leads him to join the terrorist organization, Hamas. Then, in 1989, he kidnapped and helped execute 2 Israeli soldiers who were hitchhiking. Their bodies were later discovered in shallow graves, each with bullet wounds to the head. That got him noticed, but it was what came next that made him dangerous. As a Hamas logistics officer, he moved missiles. Anti-tank missiles, guided missiles, and long-range rockets. Mossad had tried to kill him before, sending agents over the previous year's flight to the drink was delivered to his room. It didn't work. He slipped away. But this time, Mossad won. January 19th, 3:15 p.m. Al-Mabou's plane lands in Dubai. He moves carefully through terminal, his eyes scanning his surroundings. He's cautious. You have to be alert, he said in an interview the previous spring.
And me, praise Allah, they call me the Fox, because I can see what's behind me, even what is behind that wall.
Today, however, he's lying. He's traveling with a fake Palestinian passport, using one of his aliases, and critically, he's without his usual 2 bodyguards, presented to receive and is scheduled to arrive tomorrow. A deadly mistake. The Chinese hastily authorized just 4 days earlier, after Israeli military intelligence hacked into an email server he used, discovering he would be traveling to Dubai on January 19. But other than the flight details, they have no idea of his other movements while he's in Dubai, and how they are going to execute him. Because of this, the assassination team is large, 26 people in total, posted around the airport, and hotels, and in the city, waiting to catch a glimpse of the fox. But while Mossad watched their target, the city was watching them. In recent years, Dubai had quietly upgraded its surveillance network. Over 300,000 cameras are connected, watching intelligence. In a few days, this footage will come back to haunt Mossad, showcasing how one of the most secretive spy agencies runs its operations. Mahmoud al-Mabhouh is so closely shadowed, mere seconds after passing immigration control, he has to steer his luggage around one of his would-be assassins. The airport surveillance team quickly confirms his identity, trailing him discreetly to the taxi, then shadowing him during a short 5-minute drive to the Al Bustan Times Hotel, one of the 3 hotels that al-Mabhouh had stayed at in his previous trips, and where the silence was already waiting. 3:25 p.m. Inside the Watama, 2 agents in fake tennis gear, including holding tennis rackets, are already stationed in the lobby. Al-Mabhouh checks in, collects his room key, and steps into the elevator. The 2 men in tennis gear follow him. When he steps off to the second floor, he doesn't notice that the agents are following him. But one of them knocks the number on his door. One of the tennis players immediately reports back to the team. Room 230, target. Just like that, the Mossad machine begins to turn. But who creates a system like this? So efficient, so cold, so ruthless. To understand how this machine operates, you have to understand what built it. Few people have endured as much persecution throughout history as the Jews. They remember what happens when 6 million people disappear and the neighbors stay quiet. The Mossad was born in the shadows of this post-World War II chaos. Officially founded in 1949 under Israel's first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion. When Israel declared independence, it needed more than just soldiers. It needed spies. Thus, the Mossad was created as a secretive, off-the-books agency tasked with defending the Jewish state from enemies near and far, by any means necessary. Since World War II, Israel has assassinated more people than any other country in the Western world. Most of these through targeted killings, sending a pretty clear message. If you're an enemy and we deem you as a threat, we will find you and we will kill you. Unfortunately, for al-Mabhouh, he was next up on this list. After the Mossad has identified the room al-Mabhouh will be staying in, an agent calmly reserves room 237, directly opposite. Headquarters for the mission have been secured. It's now 4:23 p.m. Al-Mabhouh leaves the hotel and heads to a shopping center, with agents following him. This is the window of opportunity they have been waiting for. 4 men arrive at the hotel, split into 2 different pairs, all wearing baseball caps. The second pair carrying 2 large bags. 3 of them are Caesarea bags, the team's trained executioners. The 4th is an expert weapon. Then on the quick on 237. The agents trailing al-Mabhouh send word. He's on his way back to the hotel. It's game time. It's now 8 p.m. With the hotel staff gone for the night, agents watch the hallway on level 2 as the lockpicker specialist slips silently towards room 230. His job is delicate, reprogramming the elevator so the Mossad must keep him. As he works silently out of the view of the cameras, the elevator doors open unexpectedly. A tourist slips into the corridor. Thinking quickly, one of the agents intercepts him, engaging the stranger in casual, friendly conversation. The tourist finally, the lock clicks open. Click. So he quickly slips inside one of the 2 seats and begins to dance. Rushing past the female assassin. He taps his card. The click of the door is the last sound he will ever control. As he steps inside, he notices something. The executioner's grabbed the pressing device in his ultrasonic, opening his skin, creating an invisible fast acting miseries. His brain and vision are working fine, but he's helpless and calm. He's lowered to the floor with the agent suffocating his own. At 8:46 p.m., just 20 minutes later, the executioners and the lock picker quietly execute mission. By sunrise, all 26 agents are out of the country. There was one thing Mossad didn't know. It isn't until the following day, January 20th, that Mahmoud al-Mabhouh. Inside room 230, he's lying beneath the sheets in black shorts. No signs of a struggle. Death is revealed. His body is sent to the morgue under the fake alias he used to travel here. But back in Damascus, Hamas officials grow uneasy. Mabhouh hasn't checked in, and that's unusual for him. By the next day, January 21st, Hamas official is dispatched urgently to Dubai to search police stations and morgues. Eventually, he finds Mabhouh's body lying anonymously in a refrigerated drawer. Once confirmed that the body was Mahmoud al-Mabhouh's, a Hamas official contacted Dubai Chief of Police, Dali Khalifan Khalil, and told him that the dead man with the Palestinian passport was actually a high-ranking member of Hamas, and his death was almost certainly not from natural causes. Tamim ordered a second autopsy, which flagged the presence of substantial confirming this was not natural. Scanning every arrival shortly before and every departure. Then he went further back, cross-referencing old entries, like Mabhouh's entry into the country's previous year. Mossad agents had tried to poison his drink. He was looking for his patents. He found all 26 of the Mossad agents involved in the mission traveled under the same fake identities they used on earlier missions. Careless oversight. Armed with those names, Tamim started matching them to hotel registries, and those registries had something to do with every check, every fake smile, every suitcase all on tape. Suddenly, the final product was a 27 their faces blasted across the front pages of newspapers and televisions worldwide. As a result, entire divisions of the site showed the spies covered below and tactics exposed. But then, outrage in Australia for the identity. All those fake passports. One by one, countries lined up to ask, what the hell was Israel thinking? And Mossad, as always, stayed silent. Not a word, not a denial, nothing. 15 minutes later, in a single condition, those 26 Mossad agents have vanished, probably hiding somewhere in Israel. And unless one of them makes a mistake, the flag crosses the wrong border, they may never see the inside. So many questions linger. Was it justice? Was it revenge? Was it one to help protect the Israeli people? Or was it just cold blood? Thank you all for watching. If you're still here at the end of the video, drop a comment so I know you made it to the end. And if you're interested, I would highly suggest my previous video.
Other. Their heads are showing, the spotter says. Al-Salihi's response is calm, almost casual. Sweet, sweet, sweet. The massive rifle fires with a distinctive crack that echoes across the valley. Prayers to Muhammad and his family, he says after confirming the kill. The running tally appears on screen, 173 confirmed kills and counting.